Snow needles your face. You wake bound to a stone slab, wrists scraped raw against frozen iron, breath dragging in and out in short, panicked clouds. Above you, the sky is a bruise the color of old blood, pulsing with distant lightning. Below you, the earth shakes to the beat of drums. You try to move. The chains bite back. Around the circle, fur cloak shapes sway and chant in a language that tastes like rust and ash. You recognize some of the voices. Men you hunted with. Women who laughed by the fire. All of them facing inward now, toward you, toward the altar, toward the two figures at the heart of the ritual. Shalkane the Vile grips his staff so tightly the knuckles of his withered hand show through parchment skin. His horns curl back from his temples like burned roots. His eyes milk white, blind to the world, and yet fixed on something only he can see. Beside him stands another man in layered rags and bone charms. Younger, leaner, a smile like a knife hidden just behind his lips. Sayl. His breath steams in the cold, each exhale a little cloud that seems to coil on its own. He doesn't look at you yet. He looks at the tribe, at your chieftain, at the warriors with their axes raised, at the children clutching talismans made from teeth that used to belong to enemies. His voice, when he speaks, cuts across the chant like a blade. Tonight, he says, we rise. Tonight the gods see us. Tonight you will live long enough to tell your grandchildren that you stood at the birth of a legend. You know he is lying. Sayl does not promise anything he means to keep. The drums grow faster. The chant swells. Your heart tries to match the beat and stumbles. You are not ready to die on a rock in the snow for a god that has never spoken your name. Before the knife falls, before the sky splits, there is still one small choice you can make. In the world beyond this circle, where your hands are free and your eyes are not full of blood and snow, do something simple for me. Please hit like, tap subscribe, and answer a question down below. How long do you think you would survive here? A day? An hour? Until the drums stop. Leave your guess like a mark on a gravestone, and then come back to the slab, because your time is almost gone. Shalkane lifts his staff. The runes carved into the stone beneath your spine flare with sickly light, searing through leather, through skin, through bone. Your teeth grind together as power crawls up from the earth and into you, burning like molten iron in your veins. Voices rise to a single terrible note. Then the chanting falters, not all at once, just a ripple, a hesitation, as some of the tribe glance at each other. The pattern in the air shivers. Sigils scratched in blood on the ground tremble, as if deciding whether to hold. Across the circle, Sayl's smile sharpens. He lifts his staff, black wood wrapped in cords of skin and hair, and adds a word that was not part of Shalkane's careful, decades-studied incantation. The sound of it scrapes along your nerves. The sky responds. Clouds tear open, not with light, but with something darker than the night above them. Shalkane turns his blind eyes towards Sayl. What have you? The question dies in his throat as the power surges sideways, wrenched off its path. The runes beneath you crack. The stone splits. The cold air turns instantly hot, a furnace blast that smells of burning hair and boiling blood. People are screaming now. You realize some of those screams are yours. Shapes move in the rent in the sky. Too many eyes, too many mouths. One vast presence pushing its way through a gap that should never have been opened. It reaches for Shalkane. Sayl steps politely aside. The ritual was never meant to make you strong. It was never meant to bless the tribe. It was a knife turned inward from the very beginning, and you are pinned on the point. Chains snap. Not because they break, but because they melt. running like slag down the sides of the stone. Your body arches as something claws at your soul from the inside, hooking into it, trying to drag it free. For a heartbeat, you see your fellow apprentices in the circle, their faces stretched, their bodies warping, limbs twisting together into one swollen, writhing mass. 3 of those faces tear free of flesh and hang above the stone, screaming without lungs. They look at you. There is only the feeling of being pulled in every direction at once, of every memory you have ever owned being sliced into pieces, of your name splitting like rotten wood. Above you, Sayl leans over the altar at last, and finally lets his gaze meet yours. "Don't worry," he whispers, his breath hot on your frozen cheek. "You won't have to survive long." The stone, the tribe, the sky, your body, your thoughts, everything shatters, and you fall in 1,000 directions at once. There is no up or down. There is only tearing. You tumble through a place that is not a place, a color that is not a color, a scream that never needed a throat. The world you knew is a shard of ice lodged somewhere behind you, already melting. Every direction is packed with shapes and hungers that don't have names. Memories slip like fingers losing their grip on a cliff. A winter hunt, the weight of a fur cloak, your mother's voice, telling you the gods favored the brave. Each fragment stretches into a thread, pulls taut, then snaps into the dark. Something watches from very close. You can't see it. You only know it's there because every time you try to think of your own name, another slides into its place. A word in a lilting tongue, a precise accent barking orders over waves, a hiss promising that pain is only another shape of pleasure. You are being divided, not cleanly, not like cutting meat from bone, more like pulling apart a knot soaked in blood and frozen solid. Threads of thought, fear, and will are dragged in different directions by invisible hands. One part of you reaches for the smell of salt and pitch and polished wood, for the feel of a deck shifting beneath your boots, for a sky that is bright and hateful in its beauty. Another gropes back towards snow and iron, and the shadow of a 3-faced monster over a stone circle. It cannot accept that it died there. A third is snagged by incense and spiced wine, by music played too fast, by silk over steel, and the press of bodies moving in time with drums that are faster, hungrier. The unseen watcher presses closer, turning you over and over, testing how much you can take before you stop being you. You try to hold yourself together and fail. The first piece tears free with a sound like snapping sinew. It whips away into the void, trailing sparks that smell of sea spray and lightning. For a heartbeat, you are inside it, seeing flashes of white hulls and tall masts, figures in gleaming armor with eyes like chips of ice, banners bearing a stylized phoenix. Voices shout in a language that should be foreign and somehow isn't. The second piece follows, dragged down into deeper dark. It carries the crunch of snow under boots, the stink of wet fur and old blood, the glint of eyes beyond the firelight. You see a crooked silhouette against the aurora, staff raised, horns framing a grin. You know that grin. The third piece thrashes between the other two, hooked on a note of laughter too sweet to be kind and too sharp to be sane. Colors spill, violet, gold, crimson, skin against skin, slick with fear that wants to be joy. You are stretched thin enough to see through yourself. You glimpse the places your fragments are falling toward. A coastline of white towers and harbors, a jagged range of black mountains wreathed in storm, a walled city under a jade-green sky, its pagodas speared with banners. Then you contract. The void rushes in, a black wave swallowing everything. All colors go out, all sounds cut off. For an instant, you hang in nothing, a raw nerve. You hit something hard. Pain explodes through your chest. Your back slams into rough planks. Your lungs seize, filled with liquid. You convulse, choking, spewing water that tastes of salt and tar. Your vision is a smear of grey sky, white spray, shapes moving too fast. Someone grabs the front of your tunic and hauls you upright. A sharp, angular face fills your world, framed by wet strands of pale hair plastered to a high brow. Eyes the colour of a winter morning glare into yours, bright with contempt. On your feet whelp, the figure snarls in a language you have never heard and yet understand perfectly. If you can cough, you can fight. The Sea Lord does not pay for ballast. Behind them, a horn blares. The deck tilts as the ship slams across a swell. Over the rail, through haze and spray, you see other vessels. Dark shapes knifing toward you, their prows carved into leering beasts, sails stained with symbols that make your skin crawl. Crewmen in scale armor race past. Orders crack like whips. Somewhere above, something vast screams, a sound halfway between a dragon's roar and thunder tearing itself apart. You stagger, still half drowned, still half in the void. Your fingers tighten around the spear thrust into your hands. Every breath is a knife. On the farther ship, just for a moment, you think you see a banner daubed with a jagged, familiar mark. A crude, three-curved symbol that makes your stomach lurch. Snow, stone, three screaming faces. The memory surges, then shatters under the weight of the present. Form up, someone shouts. They're almost upon us. You don't know what these enemies are called. You don't know the name of the sea you are drowning in, or the realm whose colours snap above you in the wind. You only know that you have fallen out of one nightmare and straight into another. The next wave hits hard enough to stagger you sideways. The elf who dragged you up keeps his grip on your tunic, then shoves you toward the centre of the deck. Into the line, he snaps. Third rank, don't break, or you'll wish you drowned. You stumble to where he points. The deck is a blur. White planks rise and fall under your boots. Ropes creak, sails crack. Cold wind claws at your wet clothes. Elves move around you with drilled precision. Scale and plate armor gleam dully in the grey light. Crests trail from their helms. Tall shields lock together along the rail. Every motion is stripped clean of waste. You feel like the only loose piece on the ship. Name, someone barks from your left. You turn. An older elf studies you, helm under one arm, short beard braided with a silver ring, a pale scar cutting from temple to cheek. The word he used wasn't name, but you hear it that way. Meaning floods you like hot metal. A name claws up from your throat. It isn't the one your mother gave you on the step. It tastes of salt and steel. When you say it, it fits the mouth you're using, not the life that ended on a stone slab. The officer grunts. Good. Remember this too. You serve on the Dragonship Lathendor now. The Sea Lord tolerates no weakness. If you falter, the sea will take you. If the sea doesn't, he will. The horn sounds again, longer. You feel it in your ribs. The line of marines shifts as one. Ahead, the prow cuts the grey water like a knife. Spray bursts outward. Beyond it, growing with every heartbeat, dark shapes close in. Their ships are uglier, black holes, jagged prows carved into leering skulls and fanged maws. Sails stained in bruised colours that drink the light. Some bear spiked icons. Others carry symbols that make your skin prickle. Circles within circles, hooked lines. Rough echoes of sigils carved into stone in the north. For a heartbeat, you smell snow again. Feel iron on your wrists. Then see air and shouted orders slam over the memory. Archers, ready. Marines, Shields up. Keep your line. The Sea Lord is watching. You look up. On the raised aft deck stands a figure in more ornate armor. Silver and blue plates worked with curling designs. A cloak whips behind him. His hair is tied back, his face hard and sharp. Even at this distance, his gaze pins the enemy fleet like insects. Sea Lord. You don't know his true name, but you feel his will pressing over the ship. Movements tighten under it. Bows rise. Spearmen brace. Above him, something circles. At first it blends with the cloud. Then it dips lower and the air vibrates. A long, scaled body. A crown of horns. A head like a drawn blade. Lightning flickers around its jaws. Dragon. The word needs no translation. The enemy sees it too. Lines waver. Some ships falter. Others surge ahead as if daring it to come closer. The officer beside you lifts his spear. Listen, he says. They'll try to come alongside and swarm us. Hooks, ropes, screaming. Ignore it. You're Asur. Hold your shield. Thrust when I say. Don't step back. Don't fall. If you fall, the sea gets you. Understood? The word Asur settles over you like a borrowed cloak. The gap between fleets narrows. Arrows leap from the dragonship, thin black streaks vanishing into the rain, reappearing as sudden collapses on the enemy decks, figures dropping, shields shattering. Return shots hiss back, clattering off shields and armor, a few finding gaps and drawing short, bitten-off cries. A bolt as thick as your wrist slams into the deck near your feet, quivers, then topples. Splinters sting your legs. Eyes forward, the officer snaps. They're almost here. One ship angles straight toward you now, its prow carved into a snarling wolf. Chains drag in the water, hooks swinging. Figures crowd its rails, bare arms, horned helms, faces painted in twisting lines that slide as the hull rolls. Beyond them, a sail snaps in the wind, marked with a crooked three-curve sign in dark red. The sight turns your stomach to ice. You saw that mark burned into stone as the sky tore open. Your grip on the spear tightens until your fingers burn. Brace, the officer roars. The enemy prow crashes alongside. Hooks bite into the dragonship's rail with a scream of metal on wood. The hulls slam together, the impact jolting up through your knees into your spine. The first raider leaps the gap, axe raised high, mouth stretched in a howl. You set your feet. There is no time for memory or questions. Only the weight of the spear in your hands, the rush of wind and spray, the roar of wings overhead, and the simple truth that if you don't kill the man in front of you, he'll split you open and spill you into the sea. The raider comes down at you like a falling tree. You drop your weight and twist. The axe whistles past your face. Your spear is already moving. You don't remember deciding. The point punches into his gut between rusted mail rings. His shout dies in a wet grunt as his full weight hits the shaft. You stagger. Shields on either side catch your shoulders and keep you upright. For a heartbeat, his body hangs on the spear, then slides off and hits the deck. Blood steams in the cold air. It smells the same as it did in the north. Advance, the officer snaps. The shield wall drives forward. More raiders scramble aboard, howling, boots skidding on wet planks. Some wear furs, others plates bolted straight into scarred skin. Many have the same three curved marks smeared on shields and brows. You thrust, twist, rip free. The body you're in knows what to do. Shield to your left. Point low, in under the ribs. Don't overreach. Don't fall. A hook chain bites into the rail with a scream. A huge raider hauls on it, dragging the hulls closer. Cut that, the officer snarls. An elven blade flashes past you. The chain parts. The sudden slack throws raiders off balance. From the upper deck, archers loose into the gap. Arrows hammer into exposed flesh. Men tumble into the churning water. Then the world turns white. The dragon drops out of the clouds, wings beating hard enough to rattle the teeth in your skull. It passes so close the air burns your skin. Flame floods the enemy prow. Planks blacken and explode. Raiders become flailing silhouettes, then collapsing heaps of charcoal. Some hit the sea, still burning. Heat slams into the shield line. You brace, shoulder to shoulder, wood and iron between you and the inferno. "Hold," the officer roars. "Let the beast break them." The dragon climbs again, trailing smoke. On his back, you glimpse the Sea Lord, cloak whipping, blade raised as he guides the next pass. The enemy ship staggers, but does not die. A robed figure staggers out from behind a burned mast, clutching a staff. Horns rise from his helm. A book hangs at his side. His words are thick and wrong. The air curdles. Charred bodies twitch. Shadows pool and creep toward him. Your vision blurs. Stone, snow. A crooked staff above a circle. 3 faces screaming in the dark. The sorcerer turns his head. His eyes lock on you. For a heartbeat, you see pits full of that same threefold scream. You can't move. On the aft deck, the Sea Lord extends his free hand. A spear of white-blue light slams down from the sky. It punches through the sorcerer's chest and into the deck beneath. For an instant, he is nothing but a blazing skeleton. Then there is only a scorched mark and the stink of burned meat. The twitching corpses fall still. The pressure in your skull snaps. Air rushes back into your lungs. "Forward, take their deck," the officer bellows. You step over the shattered rail and onto the burning ship. A raider blocks your path. His face is painted black, except for the 3 curved mark over his brow, daubed in thick dark red. He grins with filed teeth. "Faithless," he spits in your old tongue. He scatters you like sparks. You don't understand all of it. You understand enough. You lunge. He knocks your spear aside and slams into you. You drop the weapon, grab his wrist, twist. Bone pops. The axe falls. You slam your forehead into his nose. Cartilage crunches. He reels. You scoop up the axe and bring it down in a short, brutal arc. When you stand again, the symbol on his brow is smeared and broken. A horn sounds, a different tone. The crush loosens. What remains of the enemy are already leaping back to their own listing decks, cutting hooks loose. Flames race along their hull. Masts tilt. The ship groans like a dying animal. "Stand down," the officer calls. "Hold the rail. Let them sink." You step back. The dragon ship pulls away, leaving the wreck to burn and roll under. Beyond it, black sails turn and run before the dragon's shadow. No one cheers. Wounded are dragged to the center for bandages. The dead are stripped of anything useful and rolled into the sea. The Sea Lord walks the length of the deck, boots steady on blood-slick wood. His gaze sweeps damage and crew alike, weighing, measuring. When it passes over you, your spine tries to straighten on its own. "Signal pursuit," he says. We follow them to their harbour. We erase it. Horns answer across the grey water. You find yourself hours later in the belly of a boat, oar in your hands, breath frosting in the dawn chill. Mist crawls over the sea, thick as wool. You can't see the dragon ship behind you, or the rocky shore ahead, only ghost lights where other boats row in silent lines. On the prow, a hooded mage whispers. The mist coils tighter at their gesture. "Master of the Mist," someone mutters behind you. "They'll never see us coming." Mist presses against your face like damp cloth. You sit hunched on the rowing bench, hands clenched around the oar. Breath steams from the elves around you, but no one speaks. The only sound is the soft dip and pull of blades in black water. The mist is wrong. It doesn't drift. It coils. It clings to the hull. Shapes loom and vanish at the edges of your vision. Other boats, low and silent, keeping pace. Above, you can't see the dragon ship, but you feel it, a weight in the sky, the dragon somewhere inside the dark. On the prow of your boat, the hooded mage whispers. You don't understand the words, but you feel them. Each syllable tugs at the air, drawing the mist tighter, weaving threads of cold across your skin. At their feet, a bowl of seawater trembles, sloshing through the boat barely rocks. A voice cuts through the quiet. Enough. The mage stops. The mist settles into a still, smothering wall. Boots thump on the planks as someone steps from the rear of the boat to stand just behind the mage. You don't have to look to know who it is. Sea Lord Aislinn's presence is its own kind of gravity. Hold the veil, he says. Not a hand's breadth farther inland. Leave their harbour blind, not ours. Yes, my lord, the mage murmurs. The boat glides forward. Rocks scrape faintly beneath the keel, then fall away. The smell changes. Less open sea, more stale fish and smoke. Somewhere ahead, a bell rings listlessly. A dog barks once, twice. No alarm yet. You risk a glance over your shoulder. Through a thin rent in the mist, you see silhouettes of other boats fanning out, each with its own cluster of sea guard, each with its own mage hunched over a bowl. Further back, just a shadow, looms the dragonship, masts rising like spears. Aislinn follows your gaze. Remember this, he says quietly, as if to no one and everyone at once. They struck first. They raided our shores. They traded with the dark kin. They bear the marks of the north on their sails. What happens here is justice, not cruelty. His tone is level, calm. Only his eyes are sharp, fixed on the unseen shore. The prow bumps something, soft, yielding. The boat has reached the shallows. You hear the whisper of waves on pebbles, and beyond that, the clatter of rope, the creak of timbers, men laughing. A harbour, half asleep, convinced the mist is only weather. Aislinn lifts his hand. The mage breathes a final word, and the mist in front of the boat thins, just enough for you to see. The harbour lies in a shallow cove. Crude wooden piers thrust into dark water, crooked as rotting teeth. Longships rest in their berths, hulls scarred, prows carved into wolves and dragons. Beyond them, low houses squat close together, smoke oozing from their chimneys. Figures move along the piers and quays, raiders, stevedores, a child chasing a stray dog. None of them are looking your way. On the cliffs above the cove, dark shapes crouch, ballistas, repeater bolt throwers. Crews hunched over them, invisible in the mist, until you know where to look. When you blink, they vanish again. Aislinn lets his hand fall. Lothan Seaguard, he says. His voice does not rise, but you feel every elf on every boat lean toward it. Loose. The order ripples through the fog. You barely see the archers move. A hiss of drawn strings, a whisper of feathers, and the mist ahead fills with the soft rushing sound of hundreds of arrows passing through. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the harbour erupts. Men crumple on the piers, pinned where they stand. Others pitch screaming into the water, arms windmilling. A raider on a hull turns to shout and vanishes under a cluster of shafts. The child never fights at all. One moment running, the next a small shape sprawled on the stones. Shouts rise, panicked, directionless. What? From where? The gods damn this fog. Aislinn doesn't move. Second volley, he says. Again the hiss. Again the fog line of death. You see a longship's crew trying to scramble to their oars, only to be side down in rows. A man on the quay lifts what might be a signal horn. 3 arrows hit him before he can raise it to his lips. Another tries to light a beacon. A shaft punches through the oil-soaked wick. Raise the veil over the cove, Aislinn tells the mage. Just enough. The mage dips their fingers into the bowl and spreads their hand. The mist tears like rotting cloth. The harbour is suddenly horribly clear. Bodies dot the piers and shore. Some twitch, most don't. Arrows sprout from wood, rope, flesh. A few surviving raiders huddle behind overturned crates, peering out with wild eyes. They see the boats now. They see the dragonship beyond, its prow bearing down, and the shadow circling over it. One of them finds his courage and raises his axe, bellowing a challenge. Aislinn watches him for a moment. Remember his face, the Sea Lord says softly. He chose this. Then he raises his hand again, and the next phase begins. The man on the quay with the raised axe never gets his answer. The sky darkens. It is not a cloud. It is a shadow sliding over the cove, sinuous beneath the mist. The hairs on your arms lift. The water under the boat heaves in a slow, sucking swell. Bolt throwers, Aislinn says. Harbour mouth. Somewhere beyond your sight, crews obey. The thump of engines rolls across the water. Then the shriek of massive bolts ripping through air and fog. You glimpse one as it passes overhead, a blur of iron and wood. A heartbeat later, a longship at the cove's mouth jerks as if something punched its spine. Its mast snaps. Men go flying. The ship begins to list. Third volley, Aislinn says. Arrows answer. Men rushing for the surviving ships crumple on the shore. A few make it as far as the piers, only to fall clawing at shafts in their backs. The raiders finally understand. They are not in a battle. They are in an execution. Some drop their weapons and run inland. Others fall to their knees, hands raised. One, brave or desperate, turns toward the sea and raises that axe again, screaming a god's name you remember from the stone circle. Aislinn tilts his head. For every village they burned, he says, this is mercy. He looks at the mage. Call the worm. The mage's hands hover over the bowl. They whisper a different kind of word now, one that pulls at the water beneath the boat. The surface ripples. The bowl's contents leap as if something stirs in its depth. Out in the cove, the sea bulges. At first it looks like a wave forming where no wave should be. Then scales catch the light, bottle green and slick. A jagged fin cuts the surface, then another. The water swells higher, sliding under a fleeing longship clawing for open ocean. The hull rises. The sea opens. A maw big enough to bite the ship in half yawns beneath it, ringed with teeth like curved swords. The worm's head surges up, wraps the hull. Wood splinters. Men tumble screaming into a froth churned red and white. The Merwyrm drags the ship under in a single, horrible movement. The surface boils for a moment, then smooths, leaving only broken planks. Mathlann takes his tithe, Aislinn says. On the shore, chaos becomes slaughter. Sea Guard advance in lines through smoke and thinning mist. Shields up, spears ready. Any raider who raises a weapon dies. Any who tries to flee dies. Those who simply stand frozen are knocked to their knees, wrists bound, driven into tight clusters. You are ordered onto the beach with the rest. Cold water sucks at your boots as you wade ashore. Stones are slick with blood. A man coughs at your feet, trying to hold his guts in with both hands. You step past him when the officer barks at you to keep moving. Fires catch in the thatched roofs. Flames lick up into the fog. Smoke burns your lungs. Somewhere among the cries, a woman screams a name over and over until it breaks into raw sound. The Sea Lord walks up from the waterline as if through a garden. His armor is spattered. His cloak is wet to the hem. He doesn't seem to notice. His gaze moves from ship to pier to house, weighing what still stands and what must fall. Those with the marks, he says, nodding toward the bound prisoners, die here. The rest go in chains to Ulthuan. The Phoenix King can decide if they're worth keeping. And the children, my lord? An officer asks. Aislinn's jaw tightens. If they bear the marks, they die with their kin. If they don't, they go to Ulthuan like the others. The sea doesn't care how old a wave is when it breaks. Sea Guard move down the line of prisoners. Some foreheads are bare. Some bear crude symbols painted in blood or burned into the skin. Those with marks are pulled aside. One prisoner spits at Aislinn's boots as he is dragged past. You're worse than the Northmen, he rasps. At least they don't pretend to be saviors. Aislinn looks down at him. For every family they took on our shores, he said, I will take 10 of theirs. That isn't pretense. That's balance. He nods to the executioner. Steel flashes. The man topples, blood soaking into the sand. Once, not so long ago, you stood on the other side of this. A nameless tribesman on the wrong end of a ritual. A pawn in someone else's idea of balance. Now you stand in gleaming armor, watching others pay. The worm circles lazily beyond the breakers, only its fins showing now, waiting in case any ship somehow slips free of the burning harbour. Aislinn turns from the corpses and looks out over the cove, at the wreckage and fires and bodies. This is one harbour, he says. There will be others. As long as chaos sails these waters, we will not rest. His eyes flick briefly over you as he speaks, as if to make sure you heard. You understand something then. You're not here to survive. You're here to witness what men like Sayl and Aislinn and the things they serve do to the world, and to anyone caught between. By the time the sun claws above the horizon, the harbour is a bowl of smoke. Ash drifts on the water like grey snow. Broken masts and burned hulls stick from the shallows. The stink of pitch and cooked flesh clings to your tongue. You stand on the blackened quay, scraping soot from your shield. Leave it, the officer says. It'll be filthy again before nightfall. Sea Guard move in quiet lines. Some smash-horned idols and 3 curved symbols from crude shrines. Others drag marked raiders into heaps for burning, while unmarked dead are shoved into the sea. A line of prisoners shuffles toward the boats, wrists bound, heads bowed under spear points. On the far side of the cove, Aislinn stands on a rocky outcrop, cloaks snapping in the wind. Mages and standard bearers flank him. Below, captains wait in scorched armor. You can't hear his first words, but you can watch his hands. He points north. The captain's gazes follow. One nods. Another argues. A third looks back at the ruined harbour as if hoping it might be enough. It isn't. A messenger trots past. Orders from the Sea Lord, he calls to your officer. This fleet was only a claw. The hand waits further north. We sail within the hour. Your stomach tightens. You'd hoped for sleep, for time to wash off the Merwyrm stink and the sound of screaming. The officer grunts. You heard him, he says. Back to the Mathlann door. Check your kit. If it fails tonight, you die before the enemy lifts a blade. You board in a daze. The Dragonship's deck seethes with motion. Sailors haul lines. Mages bend over charts. A wounded marine laughs too loudly, eyes fixed on the water. Aislinn comes aboard last. He moves like a man built for this. No wasted step, no hesitation. His armor is already polished. Only a smudge of soot shadows his jaw. High above, the dragon circles once, then glides away toward the cliffs. Aislinn pauses at the rail and looks back at the harbour. From here it almost seems calm. A thin plume of smoke, black ribs of ships, the sea licking at charred piers. A captain joins him. "My lord," the elf says, "scouts report villages inland. Humans who may not have taken part in the raids." "May not," Aislinn says. "If we press beyond the coast, we risk leaving a harbour where chaos can breed," he cuts in. "Letting another pack of raiders rise in 10 years with new faces and the same gods." The captain swallows. "We could send envoys," he says. "Demand oaths, take hostages. Not every fire needs oil." Aislinn turns his head. No anger, just iron. "There is a storm in the north, Captain," he says. "You haven't watched the coastline burn in a single season. You haven't seen children dragged from their homes to feed the altars of men like these." He nods toward the last smoking pyres. "I have," he says. "Every harbour we leave standing is another mouth for that storm to breathe through." The captain lowers his eyes. "Yes, my lord." Aislinn watches the smoke a moment longer. "We're not here to be loved," he says. "We're here to make sure there's still a world left for anyone to love." He turns away. "Raise anchor," he calls. "Set course north. The storm won't wait." Chains rattle. The anchor lifts. Sails unfurl, catching a wind that seems to rise at his word. The ruined harbour shrinks behind you. Hours blur. The water darkens. The swell grows heavier. One by one, other dragonships loom out of the grey, sliding into formation without fanfare. Night falls hard. You stand your watch at the rail, staring into black water traced with pale foam. Somewhere ahead lies the land where you died the first time. Snow, stone, Nightmaw's 3 screaming faces. Bootsteps approach. You straighten as Aislinn stops beside you. For a while he says nothing. He only watches the waves. "Do you know why we press on?" he asks. The question hangs there. You answer anyway. "Because this wasn't all of them," you say. "Because something in the north is calling them together." Aislinn's mouth twitches. "Good," he says. "You're not entirely blind." Wind tugs at his cloak. "There are names whispered on these waters now," he says. "Tribes that once butchered each other march under the same banners. Sorcerers who should be rivals bow to the same power. You think of the raider on the burning ship, the word he spat at you, faithless. What happens when we find them, my lord? You ask. Aislinn's eyes stay on the dark line of the north. Then, he says, we put them out, every spark, every ember, until there's nothing left in the north but ash and ice. His voice is calm. You believe him. You also know this. Fires that big don't die without taking everything around them. The Sea Lord moves on, leaving you with the creak of timbers, the beat of distant wings, and the certainty that you're sailing straight toward the storm that broke your soul. Cold bites your face long before you see land. The dragon ship drives north through grey water with other Asur hulls in tight formation. Ahead, the horizon darkens in a way that is not just weather. Clouds pile over a jagged coast, flickering with purple lightning that never reaches the sea. There, someone mutters at the rail. The hand. You see it now. A narrow strait between two black cliffs hung with horned skulls and flayed hides. Beyond the gap, masts bristle in a hidden bay. Raider ships riding at anchor like a spear held back before the thrust. Aislinn stands at the prow, cloak snapping in the wind, gaze locked on the strait. Sea mages cluster near him. We catch them before they form a line, a captain calls. Run them down at anchor. If we rush a blind harbour, we die on rocks and chains, Aislinn says. Mathlann gives us this tide, We do not waste it. Even as he speaks, the current drags the fleet toward the gap. Waves rise, funneled between the cliffs. Flags snap. Sea Guard brace at the rails, shields ready. You grip your spear and stare into the strait. For a heartbeat, everything holds still. Then the storm moves. It slams down over the gap like a lid. Thunder cracks so hard your teeth ache. Purple lightning crawls along the cliff totems. The air turns thick and metallic. Sorcery, a mage hisses. The sea ahead boils. Dark hulls surge out of the murk, oars churning, prows spiked and jagged. Banners whip above them, painted with circles within circles and hooked runes, and on one, a 3-curved mark in dried blood that makes your stomach twist. More ships appear behind, too many, moving too fast. Form the line, shields, the officer at your back shouts. The Dragonship shudders as the first impact slams into the outer flank. Aislinn turns to a messenger. Second rank fall back, he says. Third rank swing wide. My lord, a mage whispers. The storm is fixed to the cliffs. If we push in, it closes. If we pull back, it follows. They mean to break the fleet here. Of course they do, Aislinn answers. Lightning ripples along the cliff. For an instant you see a crooked figure on the rocks, leaning on a staff, horns twisting from his head. He's too far to see clearly, and yet you know that grin. Faithless. He scatters you like sparks. The memory hits so hard you almost drop your spear. The Dragonship bucks as a raider ram scrapes alongside. Hooks bite the rail. Raiders pour over, screaming. You meet them in a crash of iron and wet wood. The fight shrinks to blade, shield, breath. Over it all you hear Aislinn, voice steady as stone. Outer line, hold the gap. Inner line, wheel away. If the outer line holds, a captain shouts, they will be cut off when we turn. If the outer line breaks, Aislinn says, the fleet dies. You stab a raider through the throat. Another climbs over his body. The hull groans as a second enemy ship grinds alongside. When you snatch a glance past the fighting, you see Dragonships behind you already swinging wide, sails straining as mages drag at the wind. The inner line peels toward open water. The outer line, your line, hangs between the cliffs and the storm. You understand. The hand waits further north. You are one of the fingers being broken so the arm can pull back. The sea rears under you. Aislinn lifts his sword toward the roiling sky. His other hand traces a sign over the water, the shape carved into old stone in Ulthuan, Mathlann's rune. His words cut through wind and thunder. Lord of Deeps, you have your tithe of blood and ships. Now give me the wave to end this. The storm answers. Clouds twist into a vast spiral over the strait. Wind whips into a single howling direction. Behind the outer line, the swell stacks higher and higher, a wall of dark water rearing up like a living thing. For one breath, everyone stares. Then the wave falls. It hits with the weight of a mountain. The Dragonship climbs, tilts, keeps going. Men tumble. Enemy hulls smash into yours and are hurled up and over in exploding showers of wood. Masts snap. Ropes lash the air. You lunge for the rail and miss. Cold water slams into you and tears you from the deck. The world becomes impact and roaring dark. You spin, dragged down in a tumbling churn of foam and splintered timber. Light vanishes. Sound shrinks to a faint thudding. You have no idea which way is up. Your lungs burn. Your chest convulses. You suck in water. Fire tears through you, then gutters into numb cold. Far above, through a blur of bubbles, you glimpse one last scrap of light. A dragon's silhouette against the storm. A dragonship riding the back of the dying wave as it turns away, following the path Aislinn carved with your life. The pressure in your skull becomes a ringing. Then a rip. The sea falls away. Once more you feel yourself slip your body like a broken shell and rise through dark that is not water at all, drawn toward another shore. The north is calling. Something waiting there already knows your taste. You surface from drowning into cold air that hurts to breathe. For a moment, you lie still and stare up at a strip of grey sky, and beyond a black line of trees and rock, you glimpse a thin blade of sea. Small white shapes move on that iron water, dragonships. Asur sails running hard before the wind, already shrinking away. Your soul was pulled there first, into salt and dragonfire, and Sea Lord Aislinn's shadow. Now it has snapped back north like a flung spark, and somewhere far away a third pull still tugs faintly, sweet and perfumed and wrong. Your back jolts against rough wood. Something heavy lies over your legs and doesn't move with you. It slides, limp. A dead man's arm flops across your chest, fingers stiff with frost. You turn your head and see splintered planks rimed with ice. You are lying in a corpse cart, piled with bodies, trundling over frozen ground. Your hands are filthy but free. Your armor is coarse mail and leather under a mangy fur. Your mouth tastes of sour ale and old blood, not salt and elven rations. This flesh remembers snow in your beard, the weight of an axe, a war horn cut short. You died again. Something refused to let you stay that way. Ahead of the cart, warriors march through the drifts. Wolf pelts, rusted plates, iron hammered into skin. Above them, flap banners marked with crude sigils, and on more than one, the 3 curved symbol you saw on raider shields and altar stones when Nightmaw was born. Beyond the column, on a bare rise, stands a ring of stones taller than houses. They lean inward, carved with knotting runes of dark metal. Chains hang from their tops, some with skulls, some with empty hooks that squeak in the wind. In the center, something huge and wrong heaves against iron. A mass of warped flesh and limbs, 3 maws twisting and biting, flesh bubbling and knotting. Each head howls in a different tone, so the noise never stops. Nightmaw. The cart creaks to a halt. A figure limps into view beside it, framed by stones and spawn. Patchwork robes, corroded armor, one shoulder swollen into a pale, pulsing growth that chifts under torn cloth. A long face, beard braided with tiny bones, eyes bright and amused as they skim the heap of dead. Sayl the Faithless. The corruption has crawled further down his arm since the altar. The staff in his hand carries fresh sigils that shine wetly in the cold. His smile has not changed at all. Careful with that one, he calls to the men at the cart, voice light, almost playful. We need the good meat for the circle. The gods don't get inspired by scraps. One warrior hauls a corpse out by the ankle. You slump with the motion, letting your limbs hang. You know how dead lies. The raiders drag bodies from the cart, leaving streaks on the snow. Some they drop near Nightmaw's chain. Others they lay out between the stones in rough lines and spokes. Thick fingers close on your wrist. You let your head loll as you are yanked over the side. Your face hits hard ice. Breath fogs over you, close. "Oh, now," a voice says just above your ear, amused. "What are you doing here again, little spark?" A hand clamps the back of your neck, steady and unhurried. You are lifted like a sack. Your vision clears into Sayl's face. Up close, you see cracks in the swollen flesh of his twisted shoulder, weeping thin green fluid that steams in the air. His girt hand holds you without effort. The ruined arm twitches under its wrappings in time with Nightmaw's movements. His eyes narrow, focusing somewhere behind your face. "You smell familiar," he murmurs. "Not the meat. Meat is boring. Souls, though. His free hand sketches slow symbols near your temple. You don't feel fingers on your skin. You feel pressure inside your skull, the same sideways drag you felt in the warp between deaths. Panic claws at you. You try to wrench away. His grip tightens. "Hush," he said. "Let's see where you've been running." For a heartbeat, you aren't in the snow. You tumble through your own trail, Dragonfire on black waves, white-blue lightning spearing a Chaos Sorcerer, a Merwyrm rising beneath a ship, Aislinn's profile against storm as the great wave falls, and the Dragonship snaps like kindling. You feel your soul tear loose and swing north again. Sayl's pupils widen as the images flash behind your eyes. "Oh," he breathes. "There you are, faithless indeed, slipping my altar, hiding in the sea, letting some prancing Asur Sea Lord burn my toys, and still you wash back to my stones." His mouth curls wider, touching. He lowers you until your boots find the ground, but keeps his hand on your neck. Sayl's fingers dig into the back of your neck as the first drumbeat rolls around the stones. More follow until the circle is nothing but pounding hides and the rattle of Nightmaw's chains. Warriors ring the standing stones in 7 knots under 7 banners. Skulls, flies, crude flame signs, the 3 curved mark thick on Sayl's own ragged cloth. Between them lie 7 corpse lines dragged from the cart, spokes of meat from the snow's edge to the spawn writhing in the center. You are one of 7 living figures shackled at the ends of those lines. The others strain and shout. Your throat gives you nothing. Sayl lets go of your neck and limps toward the middle, staff tapping in time with the drums. Nightmaw lunges after him, 3 heads jerking until the chains wrench it short with shrieks of iron and sprays of steaming drool. Sayl pats one snapping more like a hound. "Patience," he croons. "You'll eat when I say." He plants his staff where the corpse lines meet. The wood sinks a little too far. "You came because you smelled blood," he tells the chieftains. "Raids on the coasts, gifts from the gods, promises of power. You're not wrong, but your old ways are small. One tribe here, one there, each burning itself out on some nameless village. Bah!" He spits. The sea sends dragonships now. The Asur twitch. The south stirs. There is a serpent in the east, denied and furious. The world is changing. It needs a hand. He taps the staff. The rune stones hum. The hair on your arms rises. "This is the ritual of 7 shadows," Sayl says. 7 tribes, 7 lines of meat, 7 living keys. His gaze brushes you. 7 places the same soul has already bled. Your heart stutters. You feel it then. A tug on something inside you that is not flesh, pulling 3 ways at once. Toward the sea, where Aislinn's dragonships run before the storm. Toward the north, where Nightmaw first screamed you apart. And toward a far warmth thick with incense and drums. Sayl lifts his arms. The swollen shoulder twitches. "Gods of the north," he calls. "You watched when I broke this one. When I fed my master to his own spawn. When this spark slipped the circle and hid in the sea. You laughed. Good. Listen now." The drums quicken. Warriors beat axe halves on shields. Sayl's voice shifts into a harsher tongue, each word scraping the air. With every phrase, runes on the stones pulse with uneven light. Corpses twitch, fingers curl. Blood steams and crawls along the marked paths toward the center. Nightmaw howls, 3 throats rising together. Its thrashing now matches the chant, as if nothing in it moves on its own. Pain flares at your wrists and ankles. Thin strands of shadow uncoil from the cuffs, slip under your skin, and crawl upward. They burn without heat, chewing through nerve and memory. Images slam into you, coasts on fire, ships swallowed by waves, a black tower crowned with 7 banners. On its peak stands a figure with 3 faces, all wearing Sayl's smile. His real voice cuts through. 7 shadows on 7 horizons, he cries. 7 paths for 1 broken soul. I claim them. The shadow threads in your limbs snap taut. Something deep inside you tears loose, the way it did on the altar and under Aislinn's wave. But this time the pieces do not fly apart. They are hooked, dragged along channels that stink of ash, brine and perfume. You are stretched thin between 3 anchors. Stone beneath you, far sea, and a place to the east that tastes of silk and venom. For a heartbeat, you expect to snap. Sayl's laughter knifes through the strain. Not yet, he whispers inside your skull. You don't break until I'm done. He slams the staff down. The corpse lines burst. Blood rushes toward the center in 7 streams, swirling around Nightmaw's bulk and past Sayl's boots without touching him. The spawn plunges its maws into the red and drinks. As it feeds, the pressure on your soul eases slightly. Not mercy, just a torturer easing the rack. Overhead, the sky splits with a sound like torn cloth. For a moment you sense vast shapes looking down, storm and serpent and hungers you cannot name, and feel their attention brush you like a cold hand. Then the rent snaps shut. You sag against the chains, vision blurring. Sayl lowers his arms. The glow drains from the stones, but their runes still smoulder like coals under snow. There, he says, satisfied. Paths laid. Knots tied. The Sea Lord will feel you twitch when I pull. The serpent will shiver when I cut. And you, little spark. He turns and looks straight at you. You'll go where I throw you, until there's nothing left but the sound you make when you finally break. Nightmaw belches, 3 heads swaying as blood drips from its jaws. The tribes chant its name. Sayl's grin widens. The last thing you feel before darkness takes you is not pain or fear, but the cold certainty that 3 great hungers, north, sea, and east, now know exactly how to follow you whenever Sayl whispers your name. You wake to heat instead of cold. Your first breath tastes of incense, dust, and something already spoiling. Red gold light throbs against your eyelids with distant drums. When you open them, there is no sky, only silk. Cloth hangs overhead and along the walls in harsh colors, patterns that crawl if you stare too long. Lanterns sway from bent poles, paper painted with dragons and grinning masks that seem to smile wider every time you blink. You lie on carpet so soft you barely feel the ground. Your wrists are bound behind you with silk cords that bite without cutting. A collar grips your throat. Small bells sewn into it chime when you shift. This body is different again. Lighter, long-limbed, dressed in rags. Torn shirt, loose trousers, bare feet. Your mouth tastes of old blood and perfume. Beneath the incense you smell sweat and fear. Through a slit in the silk you glimpse outside. A dry riverbed, ruined walls half swallowed by dust. Banners snap from broken battlements, marked with the Dark Prince's masks and tongues and grasping hands. Among them curls the mark Sayl named when he muttered about a serpent in the east. Warriors move through the camp in lacquered armor and feathered helms, curved blades at their hips. Some laugh too loudly as they trade cuts. Others kneel while masked attendants push hooks through their skin. This is the 3rd pull you felt under Sayl stones, north, sea, and here. Footsteps rattle the stakes outside. Voices murmur. The bells at your throat chime when you push yourself upright. The cords on your wrist twitch as if they remember the ritual of 7 shadows, The flap lifts. Light and scent pour in. More incense, more sweat. A metal edge. Attendants enter first, masked and veiled, wrapped in ribbons and little plates of armor. They carry bowls and trays lined with hooks and knives. Behind them glide warriors in segmented armor the color of bruises. Their eyes slide over you with hungry curiosity. And then she enters. Dechala the Denied does not walk. She flows. Her lower body is a thick serpent's coil, scales rippling from pale pearl to deep amethyst. Above the waist she is almost human. 6 arms unfurl like a poisonous flower, each hand holding a different blade. You see flashes, needle, hook, cleaver, spear, scalpel, straight sword. Enough to know they are all good at opening things. Bands of silk and leather cross her torso. Chains and jewels drape her throat and shoulders. Her face is knife beautiful. Her eyes are pools of venom. When they land on you, your heart skips. She coils to a halt a few paces away. Warriors drop to one knee. Attendants bow until their foreheads touch the carpets. You stay where you are because you could not kneel even if you tried. The bells at your throat tremble. Dechala's gaze flicks to them. The corner of her mouth lifts. He was right, she says in a tongue that should be strange, and yet arrives already understood. Her voice is velvet over wire. You ring differently. One warrior risks a breath. Mistress, he says, head bowed. The slave was found at the edge of the fort when the storm cleared. The silk reacted to him. We thought. You thought, Dechala repeats. The word stretches until the warrior's shoulders knot. Yes, my lady, that he might be the tether the Northman spoke of. Her eyes never leave you. Sayl, she says softly, tasting the name. Faithless little rat, always breaking his toys, always leaving the interesting pieces for someone else. She glides closer. Her coils slide around you in a loose ring, close enough that you feel their heat. Her 6 blades dip, framing you without quite threatening. The scent of her up close is overwhelming. Incense, sweat, steel, something bright and sweet. One hand comes forward bare. She taps the silk at your wrists. The north, she murmurs. Her fingers brush the collar, making the bells whisper. The sea. Her hand hovers over your sternum, and your soul lurches toward it as if recognizing a claim. And me, she says, or rather me as I will be when this little string is pulled tight. Your throat works. No sound comes. The warrior who spoke laughs, too loud, trying to please her. He's nothing yet, my lady, he says. Just meet with the trick. If he disappoints you, we can always... A flicker of metal cuts him off. You barely see Dechala move. One blade has already traced a line and gone still again before the warrior understands. A thin red smile opens across his throat. He touches it in slow disbelief, fingers coming away wet, and falls. Dechala never looks back. If he were nothing, she says, eyes still on you, Nightmaw would have swallowed him, and I would never know what I had lost. She leans closer until your world is her eyes and the hiss of coils. But he is not nothing. He is a string knotted by a very clever fool. One blade tilts, catching your reflection in broken slivers. And now, Dechala the Denied says, as if stating tomorrow's weather, that string belongs to me. You do not sleep. Dechala does not dismiss you. She coils where she is, watching as if deciding whether to peel you open now or later. Attendants strip the dead warrior and drag him out. Sayl thinks in circles, Dechala says at last. He scratches patterns in snow and stone, and believes the world will step into them. The Sea Lord thinks in lines, ships, coasts, storms. He wants to burn the north to bedrock and call that safety. Her eyes return to you. But you don't belong to their shapes, do you, little string? You belong to the space between. One hand flicks. Attendants lift you and set you on your knees in the center of the tent. Your arms stay bound. Bells at your throat jingle once. Silk cords run from your wrist to rings in the floor and from the poles overhead. The attendants knot them, so every movement tugs at several points. It doesn't quite hurt. It makes you feel mapped. He told me how he broke you, Dechala says, on his altar, with his spawn. How you ran to the sea, how Mathlann's pet took you, how the Asur Lord threw you away to save his fleet. Her tongue touches her teeth. He thought that was the end. That is why he is faithless. He never waits for the last note. She gestures. An attendant steps behind you with a steaming bowl that smells of spice and metal. Silk under your collar turns cold, then hot, then alive. A fizz races along the cords and into your spine. The tent falls away. You flicker. On a dragonship with spray in your face and Aislinn's hand raised to the storm. On the altar with stone biting your shoulders and Sayl's shadow across your eyes. On black sand under a strange sky, while a city of towers rises above you to the beat of drums. Dechala watches your pupils jump. There, she murmurs, 3 notes on the same string. She snaps her fingers. The attendants tighten some knots, loosen others. Each adjustment twists something inside you. A cord pulled at your left shoulder brings cold surf and the drag of Asur armor. One twisted at your right wrist brings pine smoke and Nightmaw's threefold howl. A loop cinched around your collar fills your mouth with incense and hysterical laughter. Dechala hums, listening. The north pulls hardest now, she says. Sayl has been busy. The sea is further, but not gone. My city is still a promise. We will fix that. A warrior near the flap clears his throat. Mistress, he ventures, we caught Cathayan scouts at dawn. If we delay, they will bring a host. The Tormentors were not meant to hold walls. Dechala does not look at him. Cathay always brings hosts, she says. Let them. They bring faces for my blades and souls for my prince. All I require is that you do not die before I finish tuning my instrument. Yes, my lady, he says quickly. She slides closer, coils whispering on carpet. One hand catches your chin, tilting your face up. Another taps the bell at your throat. The clear note shivers through bone and silk. Something inside you jerks northward, as if answering a call. Dechala's eyes brighten. He heard that, she says, pleased. Our little rat on his stones. He felt you twitch and thought it was the gods. He has no idea who plucks the string. Her fingers tighten on your jaw. Again. The attendants shift the knots. Pain comes now, thin and hot, where cords bite into nerve and thought. You feel Aislinn at the prow of a dragonship under a leaden sky, jaw clenched as he studies a shore he will one day burn. You feel Sayl bent over a crude map scratched into frozen earth, laughing as chieftains argue which village should die first. You feel Dechala herself, not here but coiled on a throne while a city screams below. For a moment all 3 look toward the same unseen point. For a moment you see yourself there, small and bright and doomed. Dechala lets your chin go. The pain eases as the cords slacken. Your legs shake. Good, she says. The paths are clear. Sayl will drag his tribes toward the storm he thinks he makes. The Sea Lord will sail to drown it. When they meet, we will be there, and the world will learn how long a denied serpent can wait to strike. One of her blades slides under your chin, lifting your face with its flat, mirror-bright steel. You see yourself in it, collar, cords, wide eyes, a handful of trapped reflections. Don't worry, little string, Dechala purrs. You wanted to know how long you would survive in this world. You will last exactly as long as you remain interesting. She lets the blade fall and turns to her warriors. Ready the Tormentors, she says. Paint your faces. Oil your blades. We march to meet a storm, and I intend to dance on its edge. The tent erupts into motion. Warriors leap up, laughing, eager for battle. Attendants untie the cords that pin you, but they leave the collar and the silk at your wrists. Those are not restraints, they are strings. And far to the north and out at sea, hungers feel the faint tug as Dechala begins to pull. You march until the bones in your feet feel like ground glass. The Tormentors move more like a parade than an army. Banners stream, drums shift from rhythm to rhythm. Warriors halt just to readjust armor or smear on more paint. Only you never rest. Silk cords at your wrists run up to a yoke carried by 2 masked attendants, so every stumble pulls on them instead of on Dechala's temper. The collar at your throat never comes off. Its bells pick your thin chime out of the roar. The air grows thin as the warband winds into the mountains. Old milestones lie cracked in the scree, their characters hacked over with symbols of the Dark Prince. Dechala coils at the head. Sometimes she mutters in the smooth tongue of Ulthuan. Sometimes she laughs in the guttural speech of the north, calling Sayl's followers snow rats. Most of the time she hums, testing how the sound runs along the strings that bind you. You feel every note in bone and nerve. After days of climbing, the Tormentors crest a ridge and see prey. A caravan has tried to slip through before the pass closes. Cathayan soldiers form a ring around lacquered wagons piled with bundled goods, bright banners flapping over them as stubborn islands of order in grey slopes. Pretty, Dechala says. Let's see what they're hiding. She lifts a hand. The drums change. The front ranks ripple aside as masked cultists step forward, chains of tiny bells sewn into their sleeves. They begin to dance, jerky, off balance, but the sound their bells make is perfect. The notes curl through the cold air, slipping under shouts and the clatter of armor. One runs along your collar and dives into your chest like a hook. The world blurs. For a moment you stand among the caravan guards, spear in hand, lungs tight with fear you did not earn. Through their eyes you see the Tormentors pouring down the slope in waves of silk and steel, Dechala, a streak of impossible color at their point. Your bell chimes. The note yanks you back into your own body, kneeling beside Dechala's coils. She has one bare hand resting on the cords that run to your wrists. The Sea Lord is still far, she murmurs. He smells more storm than blood today. Sayl is closer. He smells everything and understands nothing. Her fingers tighten. The cords bite. On the slope, warriors surge forward with delighted screams. The first volley from the caravan snaps out, neat and disciplined. Arrows cut down a rank of Tormentors. It barely slows them. Dechala lifts a blade and lets it fall. A hard note ripples outward. Cultists at the flanks raise hooked instruments and draw their strings. The sound that comes is half song, half animal. It buzzes through your bones. The front line of Cathayan soldiers shudders. Some drop their weapons. Others begin to laugh, high and breathless, as fear turns strangely pleasant on their tongues. A few whirl on their own comrades, striking just to feel impact. The Tormentors smash into that breaking line. Dechala is everywhere. Her coils loop around fallen foes while blades carve red arcs. Watch, she tells you. And your sight splits. You see the pass and the caravan and the slaughter. You also see, for a heartbeat, A black cliff to the north where Sayl stands over a map of stone circles, head cocked as a faint tug plucks at his teeth. You see Aislinn on a dragonship under a flat sky, pausing mid-command as incense and bells brush his thoughts. Both frown and file the sensation away. Below, Dechala threads through the chaos, choosing targets with care, officers, banner bearers, anyone whose death will buckle the line. When a group manages to rally into a tight spear wall, she glides close enough that the soldiers can see themselves in her blades. "You've trained so hard," she purrs. "It would be rude not to find out who is better." For a few heartbeats, no one moves. Then two spearmen step forward at once, jostling. Pride does what fear could not. The formation frays. Dechala whips through the gap. The spear wall comes apart in blood and screaming. In the end, the caravan breaks. Some soldiers flee into the rocks and are ridden down. Others drop to their knees. Dechala ignores them. She is already at the wagons, slicing open silk-wrapped crates. Jade, porcelain, scroll tubes, fine steel. She looks faintly bored. "Useful," she says, "but not why we're here." Her gaze finds you. Attendants drag you forward and lean you against a shattered wheel. Dechala's coils encircle you, shutting out the sky. "The strings are clearer now," she says. "Sayl twitches when you bleed. The Sea Lord stiffens when you choke. Both are walking toward the same shore, and neither can see it. One of her blades taps your collar hard enough to make the bells shriek. Pain lances through your skull and out across the mountains, thin as a spider thread. You feel something far away stir in answer. "So we'll help them along," Dechala purrs. "The sooner they meet, the sooner I can decide which of them I want to steal the world from first." You come back with a taste of salt on your tongue. The last thing you remember is Dechala's blade tapping your collar, bells shrieking as she plucked the silk strings Sayl tied through your soul. Pain flashed along three paths, north, east, sea, and the world tore sideways. Now wind claws at your face. When you open your eyes, you are staring at a grey horizon from behind a curved shield, the deck rolling under your boots in a rhythm you know too well. Asur armor sits on your shoulders. Dragonship lines hum, sails snap, rigging creaks. A smaller fleet now, white hulls on a cold northern sea. You stand in the shield line while officers pace. A horn sounds. "Stand easy," your officer says. Footsteps cross the planks behind you. Aislinn moves from stern to prow. His armor bears fresh dents. His cloak is patched where fire kissed it. He takes a sealed tube from a messenger, breaks the wax, reads. The mage at his side watches his face. "They are always late," Aislinn says. "The ink dries after the tide turns." "Word from Ulthuan?" the mage asks. Concern, demands, warnings. "They fear I push too far from their sight," Aislinn says. Yet the raids do not stop because Ulthuan closes its eyes. He rolls the parchment and tucks it away. The collar on your neck is only leather and metal. No silk, no bells. You tell yourself that, and still you hear them. A faint chime along bone and thought. The world tilts. For a heartbeat, you are not on the dragonship, but on a mountain slope, watching Dechala's coils tear through a spare wall, while Cathayan soldiers laugh and scream. Another heartbeat, and you stand in snow and stone where Sayl leans on his staff beside a circle of rocks, Nightmaw heaving at chains, his head snapping up as if he heard the same bell. Your knees hit the deck, the shield slips. The mage snaps a warding sign. "Seizure," he says, or a curse. Aislinn's gaze pins you. You cannot speak yet, but the bell that isn't there rings 3 times along your spine, each note running out towards storm, spawn, serpent. "Not a curse," Aislinn says. An answer. He steps closer. Look at me. You drag your eyes up. For a moment the dragon's silhouette crowns his shoulders. You have died before, he says quietly. The north and the sea leave marks. Tell me what you saw. Gravel scrapes your throat, but his tone drags the words free. Stones, you rasp. A circle. A thing in chains. A man with one ruined arm. A serpent woman in the east pulling at me. Fever, the mage mutters. Corruption. Aislinn does not look away. Does Mathlann waste a messenger because the message offends you? He asks. We have sailed into storms that make no sense on any chart. We have found harbours where the tide runs red. The world rots. It rots in patterns. He looks to the horizon, where black specks mark a shore ahead. A small harbour, jetties and shacks around a crooked longhouse. Smoke lifts from chimneys in thin threads. The raids we cut off were fingers, he says. This is the hand. Beyond that, an arm. Beyond that, something that thinks. If the north and something in the east both pull on the same soul, that is not fever. That is a line on a chart. What would you have me do? The mage asks. Read the water, Aislinn says. The mage goes to the rail, lowers a rod to touch the surface. Waves darken. Your stomach flips as if the hull slid down a slope. 3 currents, my lord, he says. North, east, deep, all bending toward the same stretch of coast. Not this harbour, but the teeth of rock beyond. Aislinn nods. He takes the sealed recall from under his arm and drops it over the side. The tube vanishes in the wake. Signal the fleet, he says. We burn this harbour, then set course for those rocks. If the north and the east want to meet there, we oblige them. When they do, we put them under. The officer at your back hesitates. My lord, the orders from men who have not seen what we have seen, Aislinn cuts in. If they wish to put me in chains afterward, they may, so long as there is a world left to hold the key. Horns sound. Flags climb the masts. The Dragonships turn toward the harbour. Figures run along the jetties. It does not matter. Bolt throwers creak. Mages raise their staffs. The first volley hits. The longhouse bursts in splinters and flame. Boats shatter. Men pushing off vanish in the white-blue blasts. Aislinn watches until the harbour is nothing but blackened piles and smoke. One less mouth for the storm, he says. Plot the new course. Where those 3 currents meet, we end this. You haul yourself upright, shield heavy on your arm, ears still ringing with bells only you can hear. Somewhere in the north, Sayl feels the same vibration and laughs. Somewhere to the east, Dechala smiles and coils tighter around her own plans. The Dragonship's prow swings toward the blank stretch of coast between them, and you go with it, a small bright point on the line that will bring 3 killers to the same shore. The last thing you remember from the sea is parchment hitting water and Aislinn's voice. Where those 3 currents meet, we end this. Then the bells you don't wear ring 3 times inside your skull, and the deck vanishes. Now your breath steams in cold air. Your boots bite into snow, not planks. You march in a column of men and beasts under a low iron sky. The war host moves in knots of rival tribes, marked with skulls, teeth, flayed skin, iron in bone. They watch one another more than the road. Sayl rides the flank on a twisted mount that half remembers being a horse. Nightmaw lurches behind on chains, 3 heads weaving, its weight dragged on sledges that cut trenches through the snow. You feel it, don't you? Sayl calls to the grey air. His swollen shoulder pulses under his robe. The Sea Lord turns his prow. The Serpent slithers north. All my toys want to meet in one place. He laughs, pleased. The land changes. Snow thins. Black rock shows through. Broken stones jut like rotten teeth. some carved with old runes, some melted as if the gods tried to burn their own words away. Ahead, you glimpse the sea, a dark strip below jagged cliffs, waves chewing at the shore. The air tastes of salt and iron. The column bunches near a ravine where two tribes drift too close. Banners brush. Insults turn to shoves, then to hands on hilts. Sayl sighs and taps his staff. Mist boils up from the ravine and pours through the ranks until you can barely see your own hands. Men laugh at first, throwing curses at shapes they can't quite see. Then the sound changes. Voices sharpen. Steel rings. A scream stops mid-breath. A man from your knot staggers out of the grey with half his face gone. A spear punches through his back from the other clan. The mist tears away. Two chieftains lie dead in the churned snow, throats cut, each clutching the other's colours. Their warriors stare, suddenly without masters. Sayl rides between them, staff across his saddle. "Look at that," he says. "Your gods have chosen. Both chiefs weak. But you still have arms, yes. Still have rage." He nods toward the distant surf. The storm doesn't care what paint you wear. The hand only cares that you strike when it closes. Follow me. Kill what I point at, and you'll have more skulls than belts. He crooks a finger at Nightmaw. The spawn surges and falls on the corpses, 3 mouths tearing them apart. The line flinches. Watching Nightmaw feed feels like watching your worst memory eat something you loved. Awe follows. No one argues when Sayl points his staff toward the ravine and says, "Down." You go with them because the chords in your soul tighten when he gestures, and because the cliffs ahead hum in your teeth. The path winds between rock faces cut with symbols. Some match those of the first altar where you died. Others are jagged new scratches slashed over the old. At the bottom, the ravine opens onto a narrow shore of black sand and broken stone. The cliffs lean close on either side. Spray stings your face. Sayl dismounts. His mount crawls into a crack and shivers there. Warriors spread along the beach, stamping and muttering. Sayl ignores them. He walks to a spur of stone over the water and presses his palm to it. "Here," he says. "The current's not here." The air hums. You taste incense and dragonfire and Dechala's perfume. For a heartbeat, you see a dragonship on the grey horizon. Sails full as it threads a reef line. Aislinn, a hard blur at its prow. In the same heartbeat, you see Dechala's coils slide through a shattered Cathayan gate. Banners of the Tormentors snapping behind her. All of it narrows to this strip of shore. Sayl spreads his arms. "The Sea Lord thinks he hunts raiders," he says. "The Serpent thinks she hunts a rumour. The Phoenix King thinks he recalls a troublesome hound. They are all wrong. They are walking into my circle." He slams his staff down. Runes on the cliff face flicker and flare, old lines waking, new ones crawling out to join them. Nightmaw strains at his chains, 3 maws gaping. "We build the hand here," Sayl tells the war host. "When the Sea Lord lands, he'll find a welcome. When the Serpent slithers in, she'll find a dance floor. And when they start cutting, the gods will see which of us still stands." He turns his head, eyes fixing on a point just past your shoulder. "You feel it, little spark," he murmurs. 3 hunters walking toward one fire. 3 hungers sniffing the same bone. You wanted to know how long you'd survive in this world. You'll have your answer soon. All you have to do is keep not dying until they arrive. Nightmaw lunges again, chains screaming, maws aimed at the sea. Out beyond the breakers, waves shift in a way that is not wind. On the black shore under the cliffs, you stand in the middle of it all. A cracked piece of kindling waiting for 3 storms to try to burn you at once. You wake before the others because the beach will not let you sleep. Even with your eyes closed, you feel it under you, thin and tense, as if the sand is a skin over something waiting to move. Every wave that hits the rock sends a tap up your spine where Sayl's hooks sit. Dawn is only a dirty smear when horns sound. Warriors shove out of cloaks. Fires are stamped flat. No one jokes. Even the loudest keep their voices low, as if afraid the cliffs might listen. Sayl is already at the waterline. You doubt he has slept at all. He paces with his staff and a pouch of black sand, drawing lines just above the reach of the tide. Each mark glows once, then sinks. "Form the rings," he calls. 7 circles, 7 fingers, 7 nails. Chiefs in the outer, champions in the next. My prettiest mistakes in the third. It takes a moment for the war host to understand that last part. Then men start checking their own bodies, the extra joints, the wrong-coloured eyes, the patches of skin that twitch to a rhythm no drum beats. Some drift back, hoping to be overlooked. Sayl points without looking. You. Each word lands in your chest like a shove. The gods noticed you before I arrived. You stand closest. The chosen are herded inward, forming a tight ring near the water. Some puff themselves up, mistaking it for honor. Others look at Nightmaw and begin to sweat. The spawn has been dragged to the exact center. Its 3 more snap and mutter, chewing on nothing. Each bite makes the cliff runes flicker. The old sledges lie in splinters. New chains run from its bulk to stakes driven into rock, spokes of a wheel whose hub is meat. Sayl lifts his staff. Shadow spills from its tip and crawls along the chains. Where it passes, flesh and metal twitch. The hand needed a palm, he says. Now it needs fingers. He turns to the outer ranks. Kneel. Dozens drop. Those who hesitate feel steel behind their knees. You fold with them, forehead almost on the cold sand. Sayl begins to chant. The sounds do not belong to one tongue. You hear northern curses, fragments of Aislinn's orders, scraps of Dechala's laughter stretched thin. The noise seeps in. With each breath your soul slides in 3 directions at once. This beach, a dragon ship where charts are spread in lantern light. A silk pavilion where a serpent woman pauses, listening. Sayl slams his staff down. Look up. The sky is still grey and low, but there is a pattern now, faint as veins under skin. 3 slow swirls move through the cloud. 1 from the north, 1 from the east, 1 from the sea. They circle the point above the spawn like wary dogs around a bone. Sayl bares his teeth. Close enough to smell each other, he says. He gestures at the outer ring. You are the skin. You hold everything in. At the next, you are the bone. You break or you don't. At the innermost, nearest Nightmaw, he smiles wider. You are the nerves. When you twitch, the hand moves. Someone in the outer ring cannot keep quiet. And you, seer, he calls. What are you? Sayl's ruined shoulder jerks. For a heartbeat, the swollen flesh there splits, and something like a tooth glints inside. Me, he says. I'm the thought that decides who to hit. The man starts to laugh. Nightmaw lunges. Chains snap tight, but one head stretches far enough that his teeth clamp around his ribs. He is still laughing when it bites him in half. Blood steams on the sand. No one else speaks. The rest of the day is cutting and arranging. Sayl walks the rings, whispering, drawing blood with the same absent care he used on stones in the north. When 2 tribes start to snarl at each other, he twists their hate into the pattern, making them swear to die facing the same enemy. When one man bolts for the rocks, mist rises and he runs in a tight circle until he stumbles back into the diagram and is cut down. Every scrap of fear or obedience is pinned in place with a word or a mark of blood. By midday, the beach is more sigil than ground. From high above, it would look like a warped hand pressed into the coast, fingers reaching for the surf. Nightmaw a dark knot in the center. The wind shifts. You smell pitch, tar, oiled wood. The thin cry of something big cutting waves. Far out on the grey sea, tiny sails show, white at first, and then flashing phoenix sigils when they catch a break in the cloud. Dragonships. Your chest tightens, some old habit trying to stand to attention. Sayl only claps once. A different scent rides the air from inland. Incense, sweat, that sickly sweetness from the Cathayan camp. Dechala is coming too. 3 currents, 3 armies, 3 lords, all closing on this strip of sand. Sayl raises his staff so all can see. Hold your places, he says. When the Sea Lord lands, when the serpent shows her teeth, when dragons scream and the spawn sings, do not break, do not run. This is not their beach. His eyes shine, bright and fevered. This is my hand, and today we learn whose throat it closes on first. The last thing you remember is the black coast humming under your knees, Nightmaw's chains screaming as Sayl called the storm. Then the hooks through your soul yank tight. For a heartbeat you feel 3 hands close, north, sea, serpent, and then one jerks harder than the rest. Beach, cliffs, spawn rip away. Your stomach stays behind. Your soul snaps forward like a flung spear. The sea is black glass under a dragonship's prow. No stars, no moon, just faint green ghostlight from mage lanterns along the rail. You stand in a shield line near the bow, armor humming with each heartbeat of the hull. The air smells of pitch, salt, and sharp magic. Behind you, other hulls slide through the dark, shapes half lost in mist that hugs the water. This body has habits you don't remember learning. Hands check buckles, lips whisper a prayer to Mathlann. At the prow, Aislinn stands on a raised platform, cloak tight, eyes fixed on the nothing ahead. Above the cloud, a dragon wheels, a smear of Balkan lightning when it turns. Beside him, a mage holds a staff over the water, runes crawling up its length. Not too thick, Aislinn says. I want them blind, not us. Give me a spear, not a blanket. His voice carries without a shout. The mage nods and murmurs. The mist thins until you can just see a strip of darker dark where coastline blocks the horizon. Range? Aislinn asks. The mage touches the surface. Ripples spread, then come back changed. Shallowing, he says. Reef teeth below, black rock above. Then we found the place. Signal the volley. Flags climb the mast. Horns answer from the shadows. The hull shudders as heavy bolts leap into the dark. For a moment, there is nothing. Then fire blossoms where the invisible shore must be. You glimpse crude shields splintering, men thrown backward. Something massive in the middle of the beach rearing as bolts hammer into it. The mage hisses. There is a pattern on the cliffs, he says. Old runes, new cuts. The stone sings when you strike it. Then we strike until it stops. Landing boats. Ropes creak. Boats drop and splash. You clamber down a ladder, shield banging against the hull, spear across your back. The water is knives around your legs when you hit it and haul yourself over the gunwale. Oars, your officer snaps. You row. Mist swallows the dragon ship and the burning shore, leaving only red pulses of impact ahead. Other boats appear and vanish to either side, ghost companions driving the same way. Bolts and mage fire keep falling, each impact a dull boom in your ribs. Closer now, you hear men shouting on the beach. Thick northern consonants, battle cries, screams. A bolt whistles overhead and slams into something on the cliff. For an instant, lines of fire race through carvings in the rock, outlining a warped hand pressed into the stone. Your teeth ache. The glow gutters and the mist closes again. "Shields," your officer calls. You haul yours up and crouch as the boat grinds on gravel. The prow hits with a jolt that rattles your spine. Out. Sand grabs at your boots as you splash into the shallows and run. The world narrows to the curve of your shield, the weight of the spear, shapes looming through smoke. Northerners crash down the slope to meet you. Furs and mails spattered with the first volley's blood, some with symbols on their skin that make your eyes slide away. You hit them in a line of white wood and bronze, shields locking with a practiced clack. For a heartbeat, you are back on another shore. Another necessary atrocity. Then the first axe slams into your shield, and you thrust. The point slips under a ribcage. You feel the jolt up your arm, the sudden sag as a body collapses. You push forward, because the Marines behind you push, because the sea behind them pushes, because Aislinn at your back will not allow the line to buckle. "Hold the surf," he calls. "No one dies in the water. If you must fall, fall on stone." Lightning cracks overhead. The dragon dives, a streak of pale fire, and lays a curtain of flame along the upper beach. Men catch and burn, running a few steps before dropping. Something huge in the center of the shore rears against its chains and screams with 3 mouths at once. The sound vibrates in your spine. For a moment you smell the black sand from Sayl's side. Feel the pull of the circle clawing at your soul. Then a northern spear glances off your helm and the world snaps back to steel and breath and impact. The line grinds forward. More boats hit behind you. More Asur pour onto the beach. Fresh shields filling gaps where others fall. Bolts adjust, firing over your heads into the darker shapes at the cliff base. Each impact sends that wrong glow skittering through the runes. Again, weaker now, but not gone. Somewhere up there, behind those carved stones, you know Sayl is watching. Somewhere beyond the cliff line, Dechala is turning her coils toward the same fire. You hold your place in the shield wall because there is nowhere else to stand. The beach is a grinding machine of shields and teeth. You push until your calves burn and your shoulder feels welded to your shield. Northerners smash into the line, bounce, die, are replaced. Somewhere in the smoke, Aislinn watches, counting how much blood the foothold is worth. "Forward," your officer shouts. "Take the stones." When the wind tears a slit in the mist, you see why. Cliffs rear ahead, black and slick, runes crawling over them like pale scars. A low shelf of rock lies between surf and cliff, choked with bodies and broken shields. Bolts from the ship smash into the cliff. Each impact sends warped glow racing along the symbols, outlining a vast hand pressed into the coast. In the palm of that hand high above, something huge shifts, 3 heads, chains glinting, shoulders like a moving hill. Nightmaw. Your stomach lurches. For an instant you smell black sand and feel Sayl's breath at your ear. Then a hammer smashes into your shield and the vision snaps. "We take that shelf, then the paths," your officer yells. You climb over the first mound of dead, feet sliding on blood-slick stone while arrows hiss down. Lightning rips across the sky and slams into the upper cliff, blowing rock and men apart. Fire pours after, washing ledges in white heat and tearing a bite out of the path. "Now!" the mage near Aislinn cries. He drives his staff at the sea. Water rears up and hits a shelf like a fist, grinding loose stones into a crude ramp. When it drains away, a jagged slope runs halfway up the rock. "First and second ranks, up that slope," Aislinn orders. "Third, hold the beach. If the line breaks here, it breaks everywhere." You scramble up with the others, shields raised against arrows and stone. Behind you, the third rank locks together as another northern charge hits their wall. The slope brings you level with a narrow ledge that used to be part of the path. Northerners rush to meet you, yelling, axes and spears flashing. The fight jams on a space barely wider than a wagon. Men go over the edge on both sides. You jab over a comrade's shoulder, feel your spear bite into a fur-wrapped throat, then drag your shield up before the next axe lands. There is no room for thought, only bracing and shoving and keeping your feet. Above, Nightmaw bellows. The dragon passes too close. Flame washes along the upper cliff and hits the spawn full on. For a heartbeat, its 3 heads are crowns of fire. The stink of burned meat slams into you. Nightmaw shrieks so loud your vision blurs. Where fire touches its flesh, it doesn't just char. It runs, streaming down chains and stone and into the carved lines. The runes drink it. They flare, veins of molten shadow racing away along the cliff. Somewhere behind that glow, you feel Sayl laugh. He's feeding it. The mage beside you gasps. Every wound makes the pattern stronger. "Then cut deeper," Aislinn says, stepping onto the shelf, boot steady on blood-slick stone. Even a god-favoured beast runs out of meat. His sword points toward the gap where the ramp meets the original path. "Hold that choke," he tells your officer. "Nothing comes down or up except over your corpses. I need time to reach the cliff heart." "You heard him," your officer says. "We are the stone." Northerners crash into your knot of Asur again and again, trying to break through to Aislinn as he drives higher with a smaller guard. Each impact rips another body out of your line, but someone always steps forward. Your spear snaps. You grab a fallen axe. An arrow punches through the rim of your shield and into your forearm. You grunt and keep swinging. Nightmaw lunges as far as its chains allow, snapping at the dragon when it stoops for another pass. The dragon's claws rake furrows in the spawn's flesh. More of that molten shadow blood spills into the runes. The cliff face begins to throb like a heart. A second beat starts in your chest, heavier than your own, dragging it out of time. On a higher ledge, you glimpse Sayl, a crooked shape against the fire, staff raised, not stopping Aislinn, but steering every blast and strike into the pattern. You drag in a breath to shout a warning. A hammer finds the gap in your helmet. Light detonates behind your eyes. Your legs fold. You tumble backward off the ledge, armor scraping rock, sky spinning, a smear of fire and cliff, and 3 screaming mouths. Black water rushes up to meet you. The last thing you taste is salt and iron and a faint, cloying trace of incense before everything goes out. The water that closed over you off the cliff is still in your lungs when everything stops. The world hangs on that last cold breath. Then the hooks in your soul jerk again, harder than before. North, sea, serpent all claw at you, 3 hands fighting over the same spark. For a heartbeat you are stretched between Dragonfire, Nightmaw's scream, and silk that smells of spice and blood. Then the serpent pool winds. The sea and snow rip away. Perfume and drums slam into you. You cough hot air that tastes of dust, incense, and old blood. Your feet are already moving. Boots crunch gravel. Your hands grip a curved blade and a small shield laced with bells. You march in a column of warriors along a ridge road, banners of the Tormentors snapping overhead, painted with masks and curling sigils of the Dark Prince. Ahead, the land drops to black cliffs and a strip of shore where the sea chews at stone. Smoke boils there. You see white sails beyond, dragonships, and a dragon stooping, its fire a pale wound in the sky. On the heights above the beach something huge thrashes, 3 heads snapping, chains glinting. The cliffs glow with crawling runes. You know that hand-shaped coast. Sayl's work. You know the dragon too. Aislinn's. Pretty, someone laughs. The Northmen set a feast for us. The Tormentors move with hungry rhythm. Lacquered armor, hooks and chains, lips parted as if drinking the drums. Those drums ride behind you on palanquins. Each beat lands along your nerves until your breath falls into their pattern. Hold them a little longer, a voice purrs ahead. Let them bleed before we start. Dechala glides beside the column, never quite touching the ground. Her lower body coils and uncoils, scales sliding over rock without sound. 6 arms rest in loose poses, 1 blade on her shoulder, 1 tip tracing sparks from stone, 1 tapping your shield so the bells chime. Her presence is a pressure behind your eyes. Colors sharpen. The dragon's roar becomes a taste on your tongue. Nightmaw's shriek crawls along your spine. She looks down toward the black coast. From here you see Aislinn's fleet driving men up a rough ramp onto the shelf, white shields grinding under arrow fire. Northern warbands braced on the cliff paths, runes burning in the rock. When the dragon dives, its flame splashes across the upper cliff and onto Nightmaw. The spawn's flesh runs like wax into the carvings. The runes flare as they drink burning meat. Dechala laughs. Our little rat is clever, she says. He found a toy that bleeds into sigils. An armored champion bows. Mistress, do we break the northerner's flank, or cut the Sea Lord's throat while he climbs? Both, she says. 1 hand gestures inland. Send riders to the Northman's rear. Take many alive. I want to feel how their faith breaks. Another hand flicks toward the Dragonships. We go down here. The Sea Lord's line is tight. I want to pluck it. Orders roll down the column. Riders spur away along a ravine path. The rest angle toward a cleft in the ridge, a steep track dropping toward the coast. The drums change, quicker, more intricate, whispers coiling through the air. Your heart speeds up. Pain and pleasure sit just beneath the skin. You do not know how much comes from this body, and how much from the hook still sunk in your soul. Dechala glides to the front of the descent. As she passes again, her tail brushes your ankle. Numbness, then heat, then a tingling that climbs your spine. For a heartbeat you see the field as she does, lines of force instead of ranks, pulses of fear instead of banners. Aislinn is a hard bright knot climbing the cliff. Sayl is a crooked flame behind the runes, delight wrapped around a core of doubt. Nightmaw is a wound that will not close. Your own presence is a thin thread binding all 3. Dechal's eyes narrow. Ah, she murmurs. There you are again. 1 upper hand taps the bells at your throat. They chime a note you remember from the ritual of 7 shadows. Sayl strings the same soul through my storm and the Sea Lords, she says. How possessive, how clumsy. Her smile widens. He will be easy to hurt. The vision snaps. You stumble like any other warrior. Below, the roar of battle swells, steel and screams, and laughter pitched too high. At the base of the trail, Dechala rears up, blades fanning around her. The drums cut in a single hard beat. The dragon wheels. Nightmaw strains at its chains. Aislinn's line clings to the hacked-out slope. The runes burn. Dechala points one sword at the knot of fighting where Asur and Northerners tear at each other on the shelf. Go, she says. Cut me a path through both. Make them sing. The drums explode back into life. You scream with the others and charge toward the three-way storm, the hooks in your soul tightening for whatever body they decide you should die in next. The hillside drops away beneath your feet as you run. The path Dechala chose is too steep for marching and perfect for killing. Gravel skids under your boots. Warriors slide and catch themselves, bells chiming, hooks rattling on armor. The drums pound behind you, every beat driving you down. Dechala is ahead of you all, a blur of scales and steel. She doesn't run so much as pour herself down the slope, 6 blades trailing light. Where the descent turns near vertical, she simply launches, landing on the shelf hard enough to knock men stumbling back. You hit a heartbeat later, and the world becomes bodies. Asur and Northerners have been butchering each other here since the first boats landed. White shields slam against fur-clad shoulders. Spears thrust and snap. Axes rise and fall. The Tormentors crash into both sides at once, a wedge of lacquered armor and screaming zeal. Your shield smashes an Asur Marine's shoulder. His spear skids off your helm. You hook his leg, feel bone give, then drive the bell rim into his throat. He drops. A Northerner lunges into the gap, 3 curved marks smeared on his brow. Your curved sword slides under his ribs. You feel the instant his pain twists, eyes widening as Dechala's aura hits him. All around you the air thickens. Steel and screaming warp towards something like music. Every cut you make sings up your arm. Every blow you take blooms as heat instead of dull hurt. Men on both sides change. Some Northerners howl with cracked joy as they are hacked apart. Some Asur falter as discipline buckles under sensation their training never prepared them for. Dechala coils at the center. She threads through a knot of raiders like a thrown rope, 6 swords working in a pattern your eyes can't follow. Heads leap. Blood mists her skin. When an Asur officer tries to rally his line, she turns one of her faces toward him and smiles. The nearest Marines stiffen. For a heartbeat you feel what they do. The tug to step closer, to lower the shield, to find out what her blades would feel like inside your ribs. The hooks in your soul jerk. Sayl's mark tightens at your core, dragging you sideways inside your head. Through that thin thread you feel his irritation spark. Far above, behind the glowing runes, he senses Dechala the way a rat feels a boot. Power surges around the circle carved into the coast. Nightmaw bellows. A pulse runs through the stone, trying to shake her loose. Dechala laughs and leans into it. There you are, little rat, she purrs. One lower hand snags a charging Northerner by the jaw and lifts him. As a volley of Asur arrows hisses in, she turns, using his body as a shield. Shafts punch into his back. He jerks in her grip. You pull him one way, she tells the dying man, as if speaking to Sayl through meat. I pull him another. Her eyes flick briefly to you. You feel the hooks twist. Your vision doubles. From your own body you see her in the red churn. perfect and terrible. From somewhere higher on the cliff, through different eyes, you see the same scene framed by runes and smoke. Sayl watching her, watching you, teeth bared in a grin with no humour. The strain makes your heart lurch. The field snaps back. You stagger. An Asur spear glances along your ribs in a hot line. Aislinn is closer now. You see him higher on the hacked-out slope, cloak torn, armour scorched, sword raised as he carves toward the cliff heart. Mages flank him, hurling white-blue bolts into the runes. Each impact burns a path through the pattern Sayl built and sends another tremor through your skull. As the circle fights back, Dechala notices him too. One upper blade gestures toward his line. Hard little wave, she muses. He might reach the heart before my rat pulls the shore out from under him. She hurls the arrow-pinned northerner into the Asur ranks and surges after him. Tormentors on her heels, driving a wedge toward the place where Aislinn's climb and Sayl's circle will collide. The ground bucks. Nightmaw wrenches against its chains. You see one link snap, then another. The spawn lurches forward, dragging sledges and stakes. 3 mouths vomiting a howl closer to prayer than speech. Runes drink its spilled flesh, flaring so bright the world washes white. Heat rolls off its body. Dechala rears, all 6 blades high. "Dance for me," she whispers, and launches straight at the monster. You never see whether she reaches it. The cliff, the dragon and the spawn all scream at once. The hooks in your soul tear sideways, yanking you out of the tormentor's skin in a ripping jerk that leaves the body you were in still running forward with its mouth open and its eyes already empty. The scream when the hooks tear you out of the tormentor's body has no sound. One moment you sprint beside Dechala, Nightmaw rearing against its chains. The next you are pulled wire, stretched between 3 anchors that yank at once. North, sea, serpent. For a heartbeat you feel Deshala's laugh, Sayl's curses and Aislinn's orders jammed into your skull. Then one grip tightens. The sea wins. You slam back into flesh. Your boots hit stone. Your lungs drag in air full of smoke and hot rock and the sting of spells. You are in armour again, plate over scaled mail, Lothern crest on your chest. Your shield is taller, your spear shorter, built for tight spaces. The world steadies. You stand on a hacked-out ledge halfway up the cliff, the one your last body helped take. Above, the rock curves inward into a shallow cave mouth, the cliff heart. Runes crawl over its arch, some old and sea-worn, some fresh and jagged. Each time the dragon breathes fire into Nightmaw above, the runes flare, drinking the beast's pain. Each time the cave throbs. Aislinn stands a few steps from the entrance, sword in one hand, the other bare and slick with his own blood. A shallow bowl of water rests on a rock before him, surface flat despite the shaking. 3 mages kneel around it, chanting. Lines of light run from the bowl to the runes. Behind you, Sea Guard hold the ledge, shields locked, spears braced. This place is not meant to hold. It is meant to buy Aislinn time. "Report," he says without looking back. A captain answers. "Beach line holds, Lord. 3rd wave landed. We are thin on the ramp and thinner here. The northerners fight like they think the cliff is watching." "It is," Aislinn says. "So a god's best left asleep." The water shivers. Your reflection melts into a long face, grinning up from the bowl, beard tangled with bone charms, eyes bright with malice. Sayl. His voice seeps from water and rock. "Sea Lord, you brought such gifts, ships, souls, A dragon. You even bled my pet for me. Aislinn's mouth hardens. You warp stone consecrated to Mathlann. Disperse your circle, kill your beast and throw yourself from the cliff. That is the only mercy you will see. Sayl laughs. You talk like you still own the sea, little wave. Look at you, clinging to a wet ledge while my hand closes. The runes flare. Stone hums. Above, Nightmaw hurls itself against its chains, 3 mouths howling. For a moment your vision doubles. Through your own eyes you see the cave and Aislinn's back. Through another you see from higher up, framed by rune light and a crooked staff. Sayl peers down over the edge of the circle. You feel his irritation spike when he senses your thread tied to the Sea Lord again. You, he snaps, always in the way. Aislinn raises his free hand. White-blue light gathers along his fingers. He slams it into the runes. The doubled vision tears apart. The air detonates. Runes wink out where the blast hits, leaving raw stone that steams black. Nightmaw screams. Chunks of its flesh slough away, tumbling past in a rain of meat. Where they hit the beach below, something tries to grow. Mage fire lashes down to burn the sprouts. Again, Aislinn says. The mages sway but raise their voices. Light floods the etched lines, burning backward along the paths Sayl carved until it bites into the circle at the top of the cliff. Somewhere above, the sorcerer swears. You feel him ram more power into Nightmaw, stuffing warp and meat into a pattern that is starting to tear. The hand shape in the cliff face flexes. Some runes split. Some turn white-blue instead of greasy purple. The stone screams. The ledge bucks. One sea guard near the edge loses his footing and drops. No one looks over. Aislinn steps closer to the cave. Rune light cuts hard angles across his face. He uses the beast as a hinge, he tells the nearest mage. If we break the hinge, the door swings free or slams on us. Which? Both, the mage whispers. Then we choose the way that hurts him more, Aislinn says. Signal the dragon. The shadow passes overhead almost at once. You feel the charge as the dragon wheels into a new line. Claws and fire now aimed at the band of runes that bind Nightmaw to the circle. For a heartbeat you see the whole trap. Sayl's hand in the cliff, Nightmaw as its heart. Dechala's warband cutting into the wrist. Dragonships hammering from the sea. Aislinn driving at the palm. All of it balanced on old stone and fresh scars. The hooks in your soul twitch, as if even whatever watches from beyond the rock is not sure which way you will break when this finally gives. The ledge shudders under your boots as if the cliff wants you gone. Above, Nightmaw heaves against its chains, 3 heads raking the air while the dragon wheels in a tight arc, lightning along its wings. The cave in front of you seems to breathe, stone pulsing with rune light. Aislinn does not move from the bowl. Blood runs down his fingers into the water. The mages around him shake with the effort of holding the lines of light that run from the bowl to the cliff. He pushes back, Lord, one gasps. Every path we burn, he jams more power through the beast. It's the conduit now. Sayl's voice oozes from rock and water and the space behind your teeth. Of course it is, little fish, he purrs. You carve my toy and every cut sings to my gods. Do you know how long I waited for someone to bring me a dragon and a Sea Lord in the same box? The runes flare a greasy purple that hurts to look at. Nausea sweeps you. For a heartbeat your vision splits and you see the beach from high above, framed in glowing lines. Sayl stands on the circle's rim, staff raised, mutated shoulder swollen and twitching. Below, Nightmaw thrashes. every wound a spray of meat the carved hand drinks. Far down by the surf, you glimpse Dechala, a knot of steel and coils driving straight toward the spawn, tormentors swirling around her. Then Aislinn speaks, and the double vision rips away. "Enough," he says. "He wants us to grind until the pattern chooses. We won't give him that." He turns just enough that you see the hard line of his jaw under the helm. "We cut the hinge in one stroke," he tells the mages. "Dragon, sea and steel together. If the door falls on us, it falls on him too." "My lord, the backlash," one starts, "is already coming," Aislinn says. "This way we choose where it lands, signal the fleet, all batteries on the hand." A horn blast rolls up from below, another answers farther out at sea. Through the mist you see dragonships adjusting, prows angling, bolt throwers and mage fire turning as one toward the glowing palm carved into the coast. Above, the dragon climbs until it is only a dark shape against sickly sky, power gathering along its jaws. The sea itself pulls back from the shore, dragging away from the hulls until reefs stand bare and shining. Aislinn's bloody hand clenches over the bowl. "Mathlann," he says softly, "see what they've done to your stones." The bowl erupts. A column of white-blue light spears from the water into the cave arch. Runes around the entrance go white, scoured clean of Sayl stains. The mages scream as if something is peeling them from the inside. The dragon dives. Its fire is the same white-blue as the beam, a lance aimed at Nightmaw and the bindings around it. For one impossible heartbeat, everything lines up. Fleet bolts, dragon's breath, the sea's rising fist, Aislinn's will. You feel the cut he is trying to make, the hand in the cliff severed at the wrist. Sayl feels it too. Through the hooks in your soul you taste his panic spike. He rams everything he has into Nightmaw, warp and spite and the screaming harvest of 100 raids, forcing it all through the half-ruined beast and into the carved palm. The spawn swells, chains snap, one head bursts like rotten fruit. What comes out is not blood but churning shadow and teeth. It hits Dragonfire and sea light head on. The world tears. The hand in the rock goes white, then black, then colors you can't name. Stone liquefies. The cave mouth splits like a cracked skull. A shockwave slams down the ledge. Sea guard fly backward, some over the edge, some into the wall. You feel your own ribs break against your armor. The dragon is hurled sideways, one wing shredded. Nightmaw detonates in 3 directions at once, chunks of it dissolving into greasy vapor mid-air. For a heartbeat, through eyes that aren't yours, you see Sayl at the circle's rim, staff splintering, mutated shoulder bursting into a fan of bone and tendrils as the backlash rips through him. For another heartbeat, through different eyes, you see Dechala rear above the shelf. All 6 blades cross before her as a wall of warped light crashes over her and her champions. The ledge under you gives way. Rock, elves, broken runes and boiling light tumble together toward the beach. Your body hits once, hard enough to drive everything out of it. You feel your spine snap in a white flash. Then the anchors let go. Armor, skin and bone slough away like wet cloth, and you are only a burning thread yanked upward through falling stone and dissolving meat, dragged back toward whatever in this ruin still believes it owns you. Pain comes back first, a deep, grinding ache, as if the world fell on you and stayed. Then cold grit under your cheek tells you the drop ended. You are on the beach. Your lungs drag in air that tastes of ash and salt. When you open your eyes, the sky is wrong. A ragged wound gapes in the clouds above the black coast, light and shadow boiling together. Bits of stone and meat still drift upward into it. The carved hand in the cliff is gone. In its place is a crater of half-melted rock, edges glowing, a few runes twitching before they die. What remains of Nightmaw is strewn across slope and shore in twitching heaps of flesh, each lump trying and failing to be whole. Your body is shorter and heavier now, wrapped in fur and rusted mail. One leg is pinned under a slab. Your fingers are locked around an axe, haft you can't lift. A northerner again. Whatever owns your hooks wanted you close to the wound. You can't move much, but you see enough. Fighting along the surf has broken into scattered knots. Asur and raiders hack at each other, where orders haven't reached. Tormentors drift through like knives, lingering where the screams sound sweetest. Dragonships rock in the churned water, some hulls scorched, some masts gone, some ships simply missing. The dragon limps across the sky on torn wings. On the shattered shelf, Aislinn stands among his guard, helm gone, armor cracked and streaked with blood. He leans on his sword for a heartbeat, then straightens. "Signal withdrawal," he calls, voice carrying down the rock. "We broke what we came to break. No more skulls for their gods today." A captain starts to protest. "My lord, the northerners still will drown, burn or feast on each other." Aislinn cuts in. "The cliff is no longer a shrine. It is a grave. We will not lie down in it." His gaze sweeps the ruin and passes over you, pinned in the wreckage, just another enemy on the sand. There is no recognition, only the quick math of ships, wounded and storms yet to come. Then he turns away, already setting rear guards and covering fire. Sea Guard peel back toward the boats in ragged but steady groups. Further up the slope, a ripple runs through the Tormentors. Dechala rises from a heap of rock where the blast threw her. Cracks line her coils, leaking light and blood. Several blades are broken to jagged stumps. She laughs anyway, low and pleased. Those still able to kneel. Others crawl nearer just to die closer. She looks from crippled dragon to shattered cliff to retreating dragonships, then up at the torn sky. "Oh, little rat," she murmurs. "You almost killed yourself making this. How could I waste it?" She glides down slope, not toward Asur or northerners, but toward the place where faint rune scars still glow on the sand. You know, before you see him, that Sayl is not quite dead. A shape hauls itself from rubble near the cliff base, robes in rags, staff snapped to a jagged half-spear. His mutated shoulder is torn open, bone and tendon hang like split roots, something inside still trying to grow. Sayl staggers, spits blood, then laughs hoarsely at the ruined sky. "Close enough," he wheezes. Sea Lord limps. Serpent sings. Hand breaks, but the scar. He plants the broken staff in the sand and drags himself toward a lump of glassy black rock half buried at the tide line. It pulses faintly, a shard of the circle's heart that refused to die. The hooks in your soul burn when his shadow falls across it. As he passes, he glances down at you, eyes bright in his ruined face. "Still here, little spark," he says. "Hard to lose, I like that." He doesn't free your leg. He leaves you pinned and watching while he crouches by the shard and lays his warped hand on it. Runes flicker inside the glass. Your vision smears. Something pulls at the places where 3 lives have rubbed thin. Asur discipline, northern fury, tormentor hunger, all drawn toward that dull, beating stone. "The hand broke," Sayl murmurs. "The beast broke, but the knot held." His fingers tighten. "Come here." The command doesn't care about bone. Your body stays trapped under rock. Your soul doesn't. It tears loose with a rip that has nothing to do with flesh and everything to do with memory. For an instant you see Aislinn framed against the sea, lifting his sword in brief salute toward the ruined cliff before turning his back on it. For an instant you see Dechala coiling through the wreckage, eyes locked on the same shard Sayl grips, blades dripping, smile widening. Then beach and sky and broken stone all smear away as you are dragged headfirst into the waiting dark at the core of the glass. There is no body when you hit the shard. No breath, no blood, no weight, just impact without distance. For a moment you are smeared across its surface, a scream pressed flat between panes of black glass. Then you sink. The world outside becomes a warped blur, colours dragged into thin lines, sound turned to pressure. You feel sand grinding against the shard's skin, feel cold water lick at it as the tide creeps in, feel the heat of still cooling rock radiate through its core. You are pinned in that core like a fly in amber. Sayl's hand rests on the outer face. You feel each crooked finger as a brand. "There," he whispers. His voice comes from outside and inside at once, echoing in the glass and in your skull. My little knot, 3 strands, still humming. Sea Lord, North Serpent all pulled through the same hole. His ruined shoulder scrapes the shard. Pain from him leaks into you, a sour, electric throb. The hand broke. The beast broke. But the knot held. You try to pull away. There is nowhere to go. The shard has no edges from this side, only a thick, slow dark that clings to every attempt to move. Sayl chuckles softly. You have seen all 3 of them, haven't you? Felt the dragon's breath and the Merwyrm's teeth. Tasted the serpent's song. Watched the Sea Lord grind his own into the cliff. His palm presses harder. You feel the memory of each life flare. Asur discipline on a swaying deck. Northern rage in the snow. Tormentor hunger marching to the drums. 3 different heartbeats, now beating inside the same stone. Good, he says. You will make an excellent thread. Footsteps crunch through the wreckage. A shadow falls over him. Rat, Dechala purrs. The shard feels her before you see her. Her presence is a silk-wrapped knife, scraping along the glass, setting every trapped nerve on edge. You lived through that? Impressive. Sayl doesn't look up. You lived as well, he says. You always do, even when you don't. One of her blades rests lightly on his hunched back. You can't see the edge, but you feel its nearness like a cold breath. You nearly broke my toy, she says. You nearly broke yourself. All for this? Her eyes, reflected in the shard, are twin cuts of colour. She sees you. You feel it, a focus like a fingertip pressing against your soul. You strung the same spirit through the Sea Lord's deck, and my storm and your circle, she murmurs. You threaded him through your beast and my warband both. Clever, careless. Sayl finally looks up at her reflection. And yet, he says, you came when the thread pulled. So did he. On the beach below, Aislinn's dragonships pull away from the ruined shore. One hull lists, another trails smoke. The dragon limps behind them, wing torn, but it still flies. Aislinn stands at the stern, cloak snapping, gaze fixed on the black coast, until the cliffs shrink to a black line on the horizon. You feel his look pass over the shard without seeing it. Go then, little wave, Sayl whispers, eyes on that retreating speck. You did your part. Dechala's blade presses just enough to dimple the cloth over his spine. And what part does this stone play? she asks. What part does the thread? Sayl smiles, teeth red. The part that makes you both come back, he says. Next time the sea and the serpent and the storm all tug at once, it will sing to you. You will answer, he will answer, and I will be waiting with something new to nail into the world. She considers this. The shard records her silence as tremor and heat. Then the blade lifts. Keep your pet rock, rat, she says. For now, we all need hobbies. Her coils slide away through the wreckage, taking the taste of knives with them. Sayl stays kneeling until her presence fades. Then he levers himself off the sand with the broken staff and pries the shard from the grit. Fingers, warped and shaking, close around you. The world drops into a smear of motion as he limps inland, away from the sea, away from the gutted hand on the coast. Time folds strangely inside the glass. Days bead up and slide past. You feel storms roll over the land, feel the ground freeze and thaw, hear faint echoes of raids and counter-raids, and the grind of empires rising and rotting. Sometimes Sayl carries you, sometimes you sit forgotten in a sack or a chest, or on an altar, while cultists bleed themselves dry under his amusement. Once you lie buried under snow for what might be years, hearing only the distant groan of ice and the muffled thunder of chaos in the north. Each time sea wind and serpent scent and warp stink align, the hooks in you twitch. Currents touch. You are yanked toward the surface, half awake in someone else's skin. A raider on a longship staring in terror at Dragonfire cresting a wave. A prisoner in silks on a pleasure barge as purple sails loom out of a coastal mist. An Asur scout on a lonely tower as a storm rolls in faster than wind should move. You stand, you fight, you scream, you drown, you burn, you bleed out on nameless stones, and every time the last breath comes, the shard is waiting. Flesh falls away. You slide back down into the black, a little more frayed than before. You start to understand. The real cruelty here is not that you die in this world. Everyone dies in this world. The cruelty is that you don't stay dead. You keep waking in new meat whenever the currents of sea and serpent and faithless witch knot together again. You don't survive a day in this place. You survive all of them, one after another, scattered across raids and storms and sacrifices, never long enough to matter and never brief enough to forget. Somewhere outside the glass, Sayl laughs softly in the dark, rolling the shard in his hand like a gaming stone. Somewhere far off, a dragon turns its head toward a rising storm, and a serpent champion tastes a new wind and smiles. When the three pulls tighten again, you will feel it. You will rise. You will watch them tear each other and the world apart through whatever eyes they give you next. And the shard will wait for you at the end of every single day.